What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. Today we are going to be comparing two fully built vehicles. We have Mike's third gen Tacoma, which you guys have seen on the channel before. We have Mike here who's going to be helping us out with the video, and then we have
my fourth gen that I just built now.
So yeah, this is Mike's new fourth gen. Don't look at what's over there, but this is the bronze Tacoma that he just got, along with his very well-known multicam black Tacoma. So I guess we'll just be talking about the differences between these two, and yeah. So Mike, you want to tell us a little bit about your third gen?
Sure. And this is, I think you guys know this is Twan's. This is Run for Tacos Tacoma, actually. It's just the same color as the one I bought. This is a 2016 TRD off-road. It's quicksand underneath. It's been on my channel, Last Line of Defense, for I guess 8 years now.
Yeah,
2016.
long time.
Yeah. So it's been through a handful of revisions and iterations. You know, I was on 32s and then 33s and then 34s, and it's sitting on 35s, which we were talking about look tiny compared to the 37s, honestly. But it has full armor, full skids, sliders, roof rack. It's got gears, it's got exhaust, it's got intake, it's got a tune, it's got kind of everything you could do to the truck outside of going long travel, outside of going supercharger. So it's a pretty built, you know, aftermarket headlights and a bunch of KC lights all around. It's kind of got everything done to it. And you got to do a lot to fit and run 35s. That's kind of one of the biggest differences between the fourth gens and the third gens. It's kind of like pretty easy to do 37s on the fourth gen.
Yeah, I think Toyota actually listened to the Toyota off-road community and made it super easy to actually fit larger tires. So these are 37s, as we mentioned, and from like this point of view, it's crazy how different it is.
The exact same tire too. They're both Toyo MTs.
Yep.
35 1250, 37 1250. So that's kind of, I mean, it makes the 35-inch Tacoma feel small. Like it looks small.
It really does look tiny. I didn't realize it until it was parked next to it. But even like the roof line, you can see it's like way up there.
Yeah, the driveway's not perfectly flat, but
pretty
still,
dang close.
Yeah,
right?
Like this, I would say it's like 4 inches taller. Maybe 5 inches.
Yeah.
Taller
like,
overall.
Getting into the door too is a little bit different. This feels pretty normal. If we had sliders, I would feel like we were, because definitely I would have to hop in to get into this vehicle, which I use the steering wheel to kind of grab and hop in here.
The lift is pretty similar, I think. You're like kind of like a 2-inch and a 4-inch. Like you got a little more rake than I do.
Yep.
Whereas I'm probably closer to a 3-inch front and rear.
Yeah.
So the lift is relatively comparable. You're going 1.5 inches more, or only 1 inch more off the ground, I guess, with your tires. So just the truck must be taller in general.
Because even like, I mean, obviously the fenders are different, but you can see how much taller that fender is. But your wheel gap here is bigger because you have a 3-inch lift versus a 2-inch with 37s.
Yeah, so a 2-inch swing there, basically difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, some people like the third gen. I don't know. I don't know the general consensus if more people aesthetically like the third gen more than the fourth gen. Let us know in the comments. But I like some of the elements on the fourth. I really like, I feel like the flares are a lot more aggressive. Both the plastic flares as well as the metal portion of the flares are just a little more, you almost get that kind of extended fiberglass flare kind of feeling without being too obnoxious.
Yeah.
And even this kind of body sculpt here is a lot more kind of defined than on the third gen. The third gen's just kind of a little more mellow.
Yeah, it's like very flat now that you've mentioned it. It's like flat, and it like, I do like this body line though too, but it doesn't, it's not as pronounced and aggressive as this one for sure.
Yeah, the Tundra as well kind of has, the new Tundra has this kind of sculpted line, which I think I like. I think I like overall. The grill, I don't know, some people don't like that it's like skinny and wide versus a little taller and narrower.
So that's the one thing I would like, or I do like on the third gen more. The headlight to grill like ratio, I think, is better on the third gen compared to this one, because this one almost reminds me of like the eyes are too wider, you know?
Oh yeah, too far.
Yeah,
apart.
like almost like a
last dandelion of the season.
Yeah,
whatever.
pretty much, or like a what does he call it? Hammerhead shark.
Oh yeah. But as far as driving, so you had a third gen on 35s.
I still do.
Oh, you still do?
Yeah, it's in California. I'm actually gonna go pick it up sometime soon, because I was working on the turbo kit, which a lot of you guys have been asking about, but I'll talk more about that when it gets back, because I'm excited to have it back, but are some bad news and good news, so we'll
hit some snags.
Yeah, we'll see.
But the driving experience.
Yeah.
You talk about it. You talk about the driving, because you have more experience driving both of them than I do. Like I don't have a ton driving the fourth gen.
So Mike's bronze Tacoma is a hybrid, and ours is the non-hybrid, just the single turbo. And I've done some performance mods, modified the intake.
Here, you talk about. I'll just pull this one out and pull it next to it, so you can have like a stock one in comparison.
Sounds good. So ours has a modified intake, so you can hear the turbo a lot more from inside the cab. And then down here we have our new full catback exhaust, which I don't even know if you can see, because let's see. But essentially it runs from the catalytic converter all the way back, and it dumps right here. I'll brighten this up a little bit. So it dumps right there. So pre-axle, and then this is the muffler, and then it runs all the way over there. So another really cool thing with this one is that the catalytic converter is so high up that you don't need cat shields or anything like that. And Mike's mic was on, so hopefully you guys didn't hear too much of him driving.
Oh yeah, I forgot I'm mic'd up.
Yeah, so this is Mike's bronze Tacoma, bone stock hybrid. You haven't done anything to it, not?
No, it's got like 50 miles on it.
Okay.
Actually.
Yeah.
Done nothing. Yeah. I took mine actually came with the little thing.
Oh, the air dam?
Yeah, I took that off. That was it.
Okay. So here's a kind of a frontal side by side. The tires and lift does a big difference. So you can see here, it looks like a completely different truck, especially like with the roof rack up there. It looks like this is bald versus having something on top. So my wife always says that like every truck needs a roof rack just because it looks like it doesn't have any hair. So yeah, so here's a nice front view of it. So you've driven it a little bit, right? The hybrid?
Yeah. And I've driven yours a little bit, but I haven't like wheeled them. Okay. I haven't wheeled a fourth gen or done like a cross country trip in a fourth gen. Like you've done both of those things.
Yeah.
So, or even driven up like Highway 70 up in the passes to see how the gearing is and how it handles all the weight and the bigger tires. The third gen, is probably most of you guys know, is just kind of a dog.
Yeah.
Especially at elevation. Again, I have 529s. I have it tuned. I have intake. I've done kind of everything you can do to and it's still just like
that's exactly the sound. So my gray Tacoma, third gen Tacoma, is on 20 or 529 gears and 35-inch tires. It does have long travel, but that doesn't affect like the drivability of it. The third gen still screams at like 6,000 RPM when it's going uphill on the I-70 pass, where this with 37-inch tires is going maybe sometimes when it'll hit 3,000 RPM. So that's a big difference.
And it's just smoother. Not like,
Yeah.
Don't have as much driving experience, but it's not gear hunting. It's
Nope.
not like needing to aggressively downshift to maintain speed. It just goes
Smooth.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. And the transmission is smooth as well, and the turbo helps a lot. And people say like, why would you ever get a 4-cylinder? Even with a turbo, it's gonna be slow, all this crap. But I'm getting 16 miles per gallon with 37-inch tires, with a roof rack, a bed rack, and a tent. The third gen will maybe get 12 on a lucky day.
Yeah.
What do you get on yours?
12, 13
Yeah.
usually for how I'm driving it. So yeah, I think even like a lot of people will be like, oh, I will never buy a 4-cylinder truck. And I think there's two schools of thought with it. One is they think it's going to be underpowered or something. So that one for sure isn't the case. Like the 4th gen it drives just way better than the 3rd gen. The second is maybe a valid concern, and that's reliability, longevity. Are you going to get 500,000 miles out of this? Probably it's not going to be as reliable as the 3rd gen, if I'm being honest, because just there's more things that can break. So I think that concern, I think, has some relevancy and some legitimacy, but I think a lot of people are also comparing turbo engine vehicles of the 90s, where they just took a motor that wasn't meant to have a turbo on it and put a turbo on it.
Yeah.
That's where you run into a lot of issues. And turbos themselves have come a long way as well. So these engines were they were designed to be run on a turbo. Mm-hmm. So the cooling system, the turbos themselves, the engine layout, the heat dissipation, all of that stuff was really engineered by Toyota to have more longevity. I don't know. I don't have to say anything. I'm not a huge Toyota fanboy or anything like that. I have a lot of Toyotas. Is it going to last longer? I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We would definitely see.
But the iForce Max is interesting, actually. This is the first. So I have a Tundra. My Tundra is not the hybrid. It's not the iForce Max. This one is the iForce Max. I talked about it. I just made a video. I talked about it a little bit. This truck's going to be my trail, kind of my off-road trail truck. And I wanted to go for the iForce Max because with any turbo engine, you have a smaller cylinder engine, less displacement. The turbo is really going to be kicking in and giving you the power. The turbo won't spool up until you hit a certain RPMs, and then you'll be in the power band of the turbo and it'll feel very fast.
Yeah.
Now, these are kind of smaller turbos. There's not a ton of turbo lag and there's not crazy boost when you hit, but the iForce Max kind of fills in the gap. So
yeah, I think the electric motor is going to be a huge help. And I wish I would have waited, but honestly, I couldn't wait, so I
yeah, you had to start development and everything. Yeah,
Exactly.
These took a while. I thought I was going to get this maybe a couple months earlier.
Yeah.
But they were delayed and delayed. But I think it's going to be a help on trail. Mm-hmm. You're going to have no really dead spots in the power because the battery system and the hybrid is going to kick in whenever you need a little more power, especially crawling at low speeds, sometimes at low RPMs. So I think that's going to be awesome. And then the regenerative braking, again, you're kind of having long sections of braking and whatever on the trail that's going to recharge the battery. So I think you're going to have long cycles of kind of battery assistance when you're off-road. So I'm kind of looking forward to how that all kind of comes into play.
So now let's talk about what we have going on under the hood of these vehicles. So this is the 3rd gen Tacoma. It has a TRD intake, A or B dual compressor, bigger battery, this power organizer circuit thing over here.
Yeah, bus bars or whatever.
Yeah, so no turbo, V6, and then over here, almost the same engines. So this is the non-hybrid, as you can tell with none of the orange batteries right there. That's my modified intake, which will let you guys hear the
Sounds
turbo.
cool.
Yeah.
Sounds really cool.
And then Mike can talk about this over here. So the orange lets you know it has all the hybrid stuff, high voltage.
I can't talk too much about it. Yeah, this is just the battery isn't there. The regular starter battery is under the rear seat now. So this is the main I mean, you'll see the orange wires. It's kind of the telltale sign that it's a hybrid. So this is like inverter, I think mostly inverter here. The motor for the hybrid system is actually wedged in between, I believe, right in front of the transmission, basically. So it's right in line. There's no separate motors on the wheels or anything like that. And then the battery pack for the hybrid system is under the back seat. So you lose your backseat storage, which is a bummer. The non-hybrids have great backseat storage on the 4th gen. That's one of the things that is a big improvement, actually, is you get a lot more under rear seat storage on the 4th gen versus the 3rd gen.
But is it worth it for, you know, not having all that power from the electric motor? I don't know.
I don't know. So for me, like, again, my use is where it's primarily a trail truck. And I really wanted to maximize the power. I'm going to go heavy on, I'm going to have full armor, 37s probably. I wanted the extra power. If I was buying this truck to keep it a little, like if it was my only vehicle and it was my daily driver and I wasn't going to go too crazy on the build, I probably would rather have the backseat storage. I like to keep gear under, like my Tundra's that way, and I have just so much gear under the back seat that I just kind of want as to keep myself prepared, so to speak.
Yeah.
So this truck, I'll have like boxes and other stuff like that on it where I can put all that gear. But if I was going to keep it a little more stock, I probably honestly wouldn't go for the hybrid. Costs a little more money, payload's a little lower technically, you lose a bit of storage capacity, but I wanted to maximize power.
Yeah. Yeah, and if I were a patient person, I would have gone this route as well. But as you guys can tell, Mike just got his and ours is already almost fully built out. But really the only thing that's missing on it is like all the armor. So I don't have front bumper, no sliders, no rear bumper, no skids on this one. We actually have a white one that has all that stuff already, minus the bumpers. But that one's a long bed, which I think I have done a video on that already, but...
The white one.
Yeah, the white one. But let's talk about what you got going on the roof and the rear and other stuff.
So yeah, these are actually kind of similar layout, not exactly the same. Both of them have the up top rack. This is the Kilo. This one's is this the Bravo or the Zulu?
This is the Zulu.
The Zulu?
Yep.
I don't know the naming conventions that well. They're pretty similar. This has got a little stainless steel plate in between here. It's a little more rigid and whatnot. This one's a little cheaper. But the profiles are pretty similar. Maybe the same.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same. So both pretty low profile. You don't have anything on yours. I don't have anything on mine. The differences more are in the back where I have a mid-height bed rack on top of a Diamondback cover. And I wanted to keep this tent nice and low. So basically it's a streamlined, the top of the rack is actually exactly the height of the top of this tent. This is a Free Spirit Aspen Light, the short one, and that fits right up here. Whereas this truck has the high bed rack,
full height, yep.
The full height bed rack. So this is a system where you have a longer tent and you need to make room for it, so you put it up higher and up above the cab rack, basically. So this, I may do a setup like this actually on the new Tacoma. I'm about to have another baby, so my tent needs maybe are getting a little bigger now. I'm not sure if this truck will be the family adventure rig or not. So yeah, this is just the open bed back here. So you got more kind of, you can put taller stuff or whatever, but not fully, you know, sealed from the elements or anything like that. No armor like Twad said, whereas I have this is a CBI dual swing out in the rear here. So I have that going on. And yeah, this tent kind of extends out. So it's kind of a unique setup in that without the swing out, this would have a lot of overhang and look kind of funky probably. But with the swing out, it's basically the same
length.
Yeah, so it kind of comes right in here and is like the same length as the tire. I guess I could close them both.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
So that was something where I kind of wanted a wedge tent. I kind of solved the problem where I wanted a wedge tent without going up high, keeping everything down low, but also without making it look kind of stupid, like overhanging the back a bunch. Yeah. So that's kind of a somewhat unique setup, I guess, there. These are -25 offset. That's another kind of big difference with the offset on wheels. So -25 offset, I feel like pokes similar to, what are these, +12?
These are +12, but it's an 8-inch wheel instead of a 8.5.
Yeah, 8.5-inch wheel. But you're gonna go like a zero offset would stick out a lot on the 4th gens, whereas a 0 offset wouldn't really stick out on the 3rd gens.
No, I think it would be almost flush, I think, on the 3rd gen.
Yeah, so that's another difference. And then did we talk about gearing? We talked about kind of power and stuff. This has 529s, obviously, but I've had a lot of questions asking, actually on the Tundra as well, do you need to re-gear? I have the Tundra on 37s. I didn't re-gear it, and it feels fine, like feels totally fine. I don't feel like I need to re-gear it at all. How about 37s on the Tacoma? How do you feel about that?
I don't think it needs to be re-geared either. The turbo does spool up a little bit more than it has to, obviously, because of the weight and the size of the tires. It has to get going, but I don't feel like it needs it because of the turbo.
Yeah, I haven't driven a Tacoma on trail, or a 4th gen Tacoma on 37s on trails or on the highway, so I can't really speak to it myself. But driving this one around on the road, I feel like there's no problem.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. The only thing, if you're really going to get into rock crawling or whatever, and you really want to maximize the gear reduction, obviously, for low range, maybe you would. But again, 8-speed transmission, so you get more gearing. With more gears, 8-speed, 10-speed, whatever, you're going to have more opportunities to be in the proper RPM range for power.
Yep.
So the more gears you have, the less important gearing your axles kind of becomes.
Yeah, and in my opinion, the 4-cylinder engine and the transmission that it's in, I used it in like the manual mode where it's in, I put it in 1st gear, and it does really well. I'm usually never in boost at all. So
yeah. So I didn't feel like, especially with the hybrid too, I'm not going to need to re-gear because I'm going to have extra, what is it? It's like extra 100 foot-pounds of torque or something.
Yeah.
In the hybrids.
Yep.
Like 40 or 50 more horsepower and like 100 foot-pounds of torque. So torque is really what comes into play when you're needing to turn the wheels. So I think that extra 100 foot-pounds of torque will come in handy. And I don't think I'll re-gear this even full armor on 37s, but stay tuned. Maybe I'll need to. I'm not sure. I don't know. What else? These are we're kind of more talking about the built trucks versus just the trucks in general. Obviously, the interior's changed quite a bit.
Yep.
I think overall, I like the interior on the 4th gens more than the 3rd gens.
For sure.
I feel like it's much nicer in there. The seats are better. The screen is nicer. The technology is improved. I feel like the storage in the back seat is improved. The rear legroom is technically better and bigger, but the seats are a little bit more upright, I think, to give you a little more kind of knee legroom in there. And then we were talking earlier, actually, one of the main issues, kind of an issue, is this space under the seat.
Yeah,
shrunk.
For your toes, just because I think both of these are powered seats, both the driver and passenger. Yeah. So your toe room, or for your foot.
Yeah, to actually get your feet under there, you can kind of like, if you're wearing, thinner shoes or whatever, and you can kind of like wedge them up under there, but you don't have a whole lot of wiggle room for your toes. So I think the back seat, I think personally, I actually just did a direct like seating comparison. I think the back seat has improved a little bit.
Yeah.
You can fit car seats a little bit better. Again, the more upright thing means this was pushed back a little bit, so the car seat can kind of fit in there a little better.
Yeah.
So I think you have a little bit more room if car seats are concerned. Not granted, it's still a small back seat.
Oh yeah.
It's not a big back seat, but I think it's marginally bigger than the 3rd gen.
And I normally run 2 front-facing seats in this for my girls, so they do, you know, get into these pockets because they can reach it so easily and mess with my stuff. But that's kind of why I have that. One, to protect the seats from getting kicked and getting it dirty. But that's the other thing, the cloth seats. I personally wish I would have gotten the leather seats and the 360 camera.
Yeah, I made a video kind of talking about the regrets. I wish, so basically we basically have the exact same spec, the TRD like upgrade, TRD off-road upgrade package.
Yep.
The main thing I wish I had were the 360 cameras and probably the leather seats. Honestly, I don't like, these seats are nice, they're comfortable, they're good. I just think they're ugly.
Yeah, they are
Honestly,
ugly.
I think they're ugly.
Yeah, and they just get dirty. You know, it's just like we go off-road, we throw stuff, and like dust is a factor too. So like the holes in the cloth seats hold more dirt than leather would. So
yeah, and then the other change actually notable is the handles moved from up here to over here. So I don't know if your girls are tall enough to reach it yet, you know, but
nope.
I think this would be, you know, maybe once they're on the slider, a little bit easier for a smaller person to get in and out with the handle here versus up here.
Yeah, and that front handle too, since we're on handles, is horrible. I don't know what.
Oh yeah, this thing, I don't know what they were thinking with this.
Yeah, it's like you have to use your left hand to use it. There's no way. It's like.
Yeah, because I think, yeah, you'd usually just.
Yeah, you grab your right hand.
Grab it. Yeah, I mean, they do have this handle at least, but.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's weird.
It's weird. All right, guys, so that's pretty much everything we wanted to cover in this video, but Mike has his own other video if you haven't seen him already. But
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, talking about the 24 Tacoma.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to check out his builds, he has a bunch. You can see in his garage there, he has what, 4 or 5 vehicles in there, and he loves to modify stuff. So
Yeah, I'll be outlining the whole build of my 24 Tacoma, which is bone stock right now. So actually working on all the components, figuring them out.
yeah, so it'll be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys next time.